Hello and welcome to Morning Kickaround, the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape, coming to you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Jason Davis, all by myself today. Des Moines takes a big step towards the stadium. North Carolina FC takes one back, maybe a step back. The World Cup is nearly here, and the U.S. women's national team played an absolutely wild one down in Brazil, and we need to talk about it. That and more on Morning Kickaround. I did it all out of order because I'm not used to doing it. It's Rob Kerr's job, who's obviously not here today. So today's episode of Morning Kickaround is Jason Davis, and I will be joined very shortly by a special guest, one of our ultras who is here to deliver some World Cup preview, a special kind of World Cup preview. We don't just look at the teams. We don't just look at the tactics. We don't just look at what their fortunes might be at the World Cup. We're also going to be talking about a little bit more about the country, the background, the soccer culture that they bring to the table here as we get ready for the World Cup. I see a bunch of ultras in the chat this morning. Shout out to my guy Jeff, who's always number one. Somebody needs to beat Jeff to the chat. You guys getting beat to the chat every day by Jeff. I got Felix in here. I got Frederick in here. I got Tim. Let's see. I play French Horn, Kate, Callan Reese, Mountain to CFC. My guy Dwayne, Luis Blanco is in the building by the Big Lake. Shrimper Steve across the ocean. He's very hyped up for the World Cup, I think. I play French Horn again. A Homeless Shoe is here. Let's see. We've got a Soccer Night in Detroit showing. Cool Will is here. Arribes Las Tivas is here. Billy Bob Western. Got the Bob representation. We need that today. I see we've got somebody coming in from Singapore, one of our non-ultras. The goal today is 10 new members. Let's see if we can do that so we can surprise Rob when he comes back and sees that we actually built up a little bit more of an ultra family here. CD Gobjects, as Rob would say, is also in the building. Patrick Houlihan, I see you, bud. There's a best soccer show tonight, Pat. Don't worry. That's on the schedule as well for your guy, Jason, who's very busy this summer. All right. Hit us up on all of your social medias. Kickaround is where you're going to find us most of the time. We're definitely on Instagram. We're on Blue Sky. You can get us over there. You can also find us on I think a couple other social media platforms. I think we're on TikTok. We don't do a lot over there, but we're on TikTok. Of course, if you're not a subscriber, if you're not a member, like I said, a 10-member goal would be a nice thing. Callan Reese is gifted a membership, so we've only got 9 left to hit our goal today. That would be a great way to support the community that we're building here on Morning Kickaround. It really is down to you guys, right? We need your help to spread the word, to keep this movement growing, because what we want to do is shine the spotlight on American soccer and on the community that we're growing in places like we're going to talk about today on the show with a couple of big news items. Yes, the World Cup is happening tomorrow. Yes, it will probably dominate soccer discussion for a while. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a ton of stuff on the World Cup, but we have this special place for American soccer, and I'm really glad that you guys are here. If you don't want to become a member on a regular monthly basis and you just want to throw us some support, you can do that at ko-fi.com/Morning Kickaround. We also have an email address. You can just drop us an email. I know some of our World Cup preview ultras are doing that, hitting us up in the email for their Kickaround previews of their World Cup groups. We are a podcast. You can get us. You don't want to look at our faces on YouTube. You can get us as a podcast. And I'll remind you that we got merch. We're trying to get that hooked up to the YouTube channel again because we had an issue. But morning-kickaround-shop.fourthwall.com. It's a mouthful, but I know you can do it. I know you can go over there and find some gear that you might like. I'm wearing the Morning Kickaround jersey right now. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I'm wearing it right now. Decided to put it on this morning. Oh, man, look, you guys already hit the goal. My man John Hunt, who's going to be on the show today. Shout out to John. And Billy Bob Western, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for stepping up and supporting the community. Bill Barrett is here. I see you, Bill. Thank you very much. All right. We got a lot to do. We got to get a World Cup preview in, but we've got some other stories. So when we come back, it's one of our favorite segments on Morning Kickaround, Soccer Under Construction. Let's do it. All right, it's time for soccer under construction on Morning Kickaround, and the news of the day involves two different places in American soccer. We will start in Des Moines, Iowa, where the word is that Des Moines has approved a 50-year lease for a future soccer stadium there in Des Moines, Iowa. We've been talking about this for a while now. We told you that the Des Moines Menace have been a feature of soccer in Des Moines for a very long time, and that the family that is behind the Des Moines Menace, Kyle Krause and his family, formerly of the Come and Go convenience store empire. I think they sold that off and they were no longer called Come and Go. But every time we get to talk about Come and Go, we do it here, right? So anyway, Des Moines Menace, an amateur team, 32 years of existence, the Des Moines Menace. And it's time, really, for Des Moines to have a pro team. Okay, that's been a USL League Two team recently. It's I didn't know about this. I'm seeing some chat here, and I'm gonna throw this up. Now, normally the rule is you got to be an ultra to get your comments on screen, but since this is good information that I'm not aware of, I'm a robot one. Can we talk about the Menace absolutely falling apart this season while we talk about Des Moines Stadium? Was not aware of that. We'll follow up on this. Half the Menace players quit. That's what I'm being told. Okay, so that is obviously not good for Des Moines Menace USL League Two. But it seems as though they're taking a step forward. Again, Kyle Krause, a guy who also has an investment in Italian football, right? An Italian calcio. And we were talking about Kyle as a guy who controls the franchise rights in Des Moines. I don't know how big his area is, right? This is essentially, he has the exclusive right to launch a USL team in that area. He has the franchise rights to Des Moines for USL. I mean, it makes sense. He owns Des Moines Menace of USL League Two. Of course, he would be the guy to take them pro. He owns Parma, right? He's the majority owner of Parma. And I think there was some thoughts here that Kyle Krause was way more interested in making Parma a thing and growing Parma and being a successful owner of an Italian football club than he was in launching professional soccer in Des Moines, Iowa. And I think we have at various points talked about how he loses a ton of money on the Parma deal. A story from the Des Moines Register from last year, April of last year, his Italian soccer club loses nearly $400 million. And this was framed as part of the story about the stadium in Des Moines having a shortfall in funding. Now, my understanding is that shortfall has been closed, and they now have the money in order to build the stadium. And this lease was an important part of getting it done. So a 50-year lease, they approved it on Monday night, a soccer-specific stadium at the former, is it Deco or Dyco, guys? Des Moines people, help me out. Just southwest of downtown. Under the agreement, the Iowa Soccer Development Foundation will lease the property from the city and pay $665. I'm going to try one more time. I'm filling in for Rob today. $656,075. I could have left off the $75, but I know it's in there for some reason. The stadium is supposed to be 5,500 seats. There's supposed to be a global plaza designed to host festivals and community events. The costs have gone from about $60 million to $95 million. Funding for the project includes contributions from the city, the county, the state, along with major support, it says in the Des Moines Register, from the Krause family. Now, I wanted to show you guys the site. Here's the site. Let me take that off. We got confusion here. There it is. There's the site. Okay, this is where they want to build the stadium in Des Moines, Iowa. I believe there's some remediation issues. It is a super fun site, so they're going to have to do some work to clean it up. This is one of the renderings. I don't think we've got updated renderings. So, this is pretty, but it is very, 1990s video game level of rendering. We're not talking about the most advanced images here. One more, I think that's the two I got. So that one from the side with the plaza there, which you can see on the left. And then obviously this would be the interior of the stadium. Two covered sides, two open ends. I see seats there. So it's not as though there are no seats there, but those are uncovered ends. So it's not horseshoe. Actually, you can't tell on the near side. But it does look like there are seats, at least on the far side, behind the goal. which who knows? Maybe that's the supporter section. It does look like there's two tiers to this. Again, 5,500 seats. It's obviously giving very much Fort Wayne vibes, right? Like based on my understanding of what Fort Wayne is trying to do with their stadium, which is still kind of in the process. But that looks to me like what they're looking to do in Des Moines, Iowa. And, there's no real reason to think that Des Moines needs more than that, right? There's no real reason to think that Des Moines needs to go shooting for the moon with their stadium. Get this thing built, again, with those ends where you could put more seats if you needed to. You could obviously grow. And it's true, right? Renderings are renderings for a reason. They very rarely look like the finished product. And Tim is saying, I bet just about anything, those overhangs don't make it to the final design. So you're talking about the roofs, Tim? That's what we're talking about here, right? Like the idea of covered seats. That is the extra level. That's like the leather seats of American soccer stadiums, right? Now we've got so many stadiums around the country that you can build a stadium with stands or with seats around a stadium, even completely ringing the field, but getting those roofs up. That's always the extra lift. That's where the costs really start to skyrocket. And again, per the report, this guy's gone from a $60 million project to a $95 million project. Now, that is Des Moines, Iowa. And, again, a stadium, a site lease being approved does not necessarily mean that the stadium gets done. There is still some work to be done there. Again, a couple of people quoted in the story here. Matt Anderson, board member with the Iowa Soccer Development Foundation and deputy city manager, said securing control of the site was a critical step. They got to have control of the site. You got to pin down the site, he said. That's a monument. You can't even think of it, the project, until you have site control. So this is a final monumental step that they have gotten out of the way. Now design work will continue. So we're not done with the final design, right? We're not done with that. We are still pricing and designing. It's unlikely to break ground this year. So probably a spring of 27 groundbreaking. First game in 2029. So we're still talking about 3 years. Despite this site being secured, we're talking about 3 years before Des Moines gets to open this stadium. And obviously that means probably 3 years until the pro team takes the field. Because if you don't have a proper venue, you can't have a professional team. Now, again, now that you guys have told me that there's a meltdown happening with the Des Moines Menace, we need to follow up on that. Arribas Lativa is also throwing it in there. Des Moines Menace having a dysfunctional time. I don't know how that will impact the effort to get a pro team off the ground. Anderson says the project still faces significant challenges because of the site's environmental history. Several feet of fill material would need to be brought in, adding both cost and time to development. It's an EPA Superfund site, as I mentioned. That comes with a lot of reporting and monitoring. So, yeah, again, this is still a process. Now, elsewhere in stadium news, and this is about a week old, maybe a little more than that, a week and a half old, the News and Observer in Raleigh, North Carolina, reporting that the project that was meant to include a stadium for North Carolina FC, and you could argue the North Carolina Courage as well, under the same ownership, that stadium has now been removed from the project. So the Raleigh Downtown South project is progressing after it was originally planned and originally proposed 7 years ago. After years of political fights, financing delays, and shifting market conditions, it is now only now inching forward, starting not with a stadium, but with garden-style apartments. So the read here is that there could still be a stadium. But what has happened is rather than prioritizing the stadium, they are prioritizing the apartments. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be a stadium. And we certainly will have to see how North Carolina FC's ownership responds to this. And what a schizophrenic existence North Carolina FC and Raleigh soccer has had, right? Because you go back a ways. You go back to the history of the split between the USL First Division Pro, USL Pro, and NASL, when the NASL team said, you know what, we don't think we're getting enough out of this relationship. They went off and formed their own league. Obviously, that led to a fight with US Soccer and Major League Soccer, which ultimately led to a quote-unquote hiatus for the North American Soccer League, which continues to this day. And Steve Malik was a major player in all of the discussions. He was referenced heavily in the lawsuit that was filed by Rocco Commisso and the NASL when all of that went down, right? So you had the indictment of Aaron Davidson, who was the traffic sports president back in 2015. He got indicted for money laundering and wire charges and all those things. Malik purchased the Railhawks from Traffic Sports. Traffic Sports was the group behind the NASL. He steps in. He obviously was thinking big, and Major League Soccer was on his mind, and he wanted to bring MLS to Raleigh. And there were all these fancy plans to build a stadium, and obviously that has not played out. Downtown South was central to the idea that they could build a stadium and get an MLS team into Raleigh, North Carolina. Obviously, with Charlotte coming in, it now feels like with the North Carolina market kind of not claimed by MLS. I mean, obviously Raleigh and Charlotte are different places, but with that appearance of Charlotte with the biggest money in the league, there and David Tepper, seems very unlikely. Now, again, North Carolina FC went on a hiatus amidst the reorg, I suppose you could argue, of USL, or the planned reorg, right? Because USL is saying we're going to go with Pro-Rel and we're going to go with the USL Premier Division, and North Carolina FC was like, well, we're actually going to stop playing and maybe not burn the cash while we wait for USL Premier to get off the ground. And I don't know what that means, right, when they come back. So if this Downtown South plan does not include a stadium, well, that's a problem, or at least for the moment, it's a problem for Steve Malik in North Carolina FC. And I saw some concern about the future of the Courage in the Discord, and I do not have any insight into whether or not there is relocation on the table for any NWSL team at the moment. Obviously, we've already had a little bit of that in the history of the NWSL. But if there is no stadium coming and the NWSL sees a different market open and there's a stadium maybe lined up somewhere else, and people want to jump in and spend the money necessary to enter what is now a growing and lucrative investment in terms of the valuation of these clubs with the NWSL, then maybe we are looking at the potential for that. Again, I'm wildly speculating. I don't want to suggest that definitely happening. Now, speaking of women's soccer, let's pause for a second, catch our breath, as Rob would say. When we come back, a little bit of hot topic. What happened last night in Brazil with the U.S. women's national team? All right, last night in Brazil, the U.S. women's national team faced off against Brazil in a game that, kind of went nuts towards the end there. They were playing in Brazil in a game that was obviously intense from the get-go. A full house in the building there to watch the Brazilian women, number 6 in the world, and certainly a team that has big aspirations to win themselves a World Cup. Obviously, has had one of the great players in women's soccer in Marta. Go up against the number 2 in the world, U.S. women's national team, a team with a trophy case full of trophies. 55,000, John is telling me, were in the building for that Brazil game against the U.S. women's national team. And, these games are always intense. And, at the risk of painting with a broad brush, but in the interest of being accurate, South American football can often be physical, right? That is awesome that the game has taken on this extra edge, right? Women's soccer is as intense competitively as men's. And we're talking about a friendly. How often do we get that? And maybe women's football is where we're still going to get the kind of friendlies that we really don't have in the men's game anymore, as the money has gotten so big on the club side, as the salaries have gone up and the transfer fees have gone up, and players on the men's side are often more concerned about not getting hurt than they are about going hard in a friendly. I'm talking about a Euro or a Copa America or a World Cup. I'm talking about a friendly. Here are your stats for this game last night. in Brazil, you had John Hunt, who's going to join me here in a second to talk about the men's World Cup. He gave me this misconduct summary in our Discord. By the way, become an ultra, join the Discord, engage with people like John and everybody else. But as you can see, 4 red cards. When it looks like that in FOTMOB, it looks like the power meter is full for Brazil. Well, it was like they've regenerated and now they've started. But that's not it at all, because again, they finished the game. They finished the game with 7, but there were a couple of those red cards you can see were extremely late in the game. In fact, I think after the final whistle, technically speaking. Caroline, by the way, decided to go to social media and complain about the referee. She did it in Portuguese. I'm not going to even bother bringing it up because it's on X, and I don't really love that place. But she complained about a Spanish referee ruining the game. You can see the misconduct summary. Rose Lavelle gets a caution. Gio gets a caution. The head coach of Brazil, Arthur Elias, gets a caution. He ended up having to put on a penny because his shirt clashed with the U.S. women's or was the same color as the U.S. women's national team, and the referee decided he blended in a little too much and needed a different color. He was ultimately, I think, dismissed by the end of the game. Is he there? There he is. 78th minute. He got dismissed with a second yellow card. And then the rest of the bench, right? Bench. And those are unidentified people because there were just so many staff from Brazil that were dismissed at that point in the game. Now you can see, certainly as extra time or added time rather arrived, there was, oh man, just a ton of back and forth. I will say Emily Sonic got her money's worth. I'm not sure that was a yellow card worthy offense. If you go back and watch the highlights, when there's a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of bumping, and bumping is what it was. Rubbing is racing. Is that what they said? Rubbing is racing, not bumping. A little bit of bumping, a little bit of rubbing as the players kind of pass each other off the ball. And then Emily Sonic gets a shoulder, or an arm to the shoulder, a push. And she goes down. I imagine she sounded like my 5-year-old who loves this move. He loves that move. That's his move. It was a Royal Rumble. It absolutely was. I recommend watching the highlights. I don't think they quite do the game justice. Obviously, the U.S. women's national team won the game via that own goal. It was a deflection off a Sophia Wilson shot. And I don't think it was going in on target before the deflection, hence it being an own goal. Brazil had a goal waved off early for an offside. It definitely was offside. There not only was a player down behind the ball in an offside position, the player who ultimately put the ball in the net was in an offside position. I'm sure that we are going to get some comments from Brazil about this game in the aftermath. And probably I should be going and looking for that, but I just wanted to pass along what happened last night. I'm not sure if I feel proud that the U.S. women's national team dealt with this nonsense, or that they are occasionally engaged in some of it themselves, and therefore I should feel a little bit ashamed. Man, I don't know. It's one of those things, right? This is part of the game now. You do like a good fight every now and then. It's not the best look for the game. It is the dark arts, as John says here. So it's one of those things. There are some questions. Look, the team that Emma Hayes put out last night, maybe not the team people want to see. Rose Lavelle, Lindsay Heap, Lily Johannes in the midfield came off in the 62nd minute. Rose Lavelle also came off in the 62nd minute. She did have a shot that she, I think, put just by the post. We did have a couple of other opportunities for the U.S. women's national team that were not finished. That very well could have been. It could have been 3-0. I don't know that Brazil created a ton. And that was another discussion last night, that Brazil was trying to ugly it up. Like they were interested in ugling it up. And that's what Arthur Elias ultimately wants to do. That Brazil's not interested in playing Jogo Bonito on the women's side right now. And, again, it takes all kinds. And I don't want to sit here and wag my finger at Brazil. Not just because they're Brazil and you have the sense of what Brazil's supposed to be, but just because of the double standard that's in place, right? The idea that, sometimes the men can do this stuff, but the women can't. Maybe that's not even at play here. Maybe it's just that question of, if you're playing ugly football, if you're playing a slow down, physical, defensively minded approach, are you doing a disservice to the game? Right? And there will be some people who make that claim, right? This has come into question with, even though Arsenal's not nearly like that, certainly Arsenal's not going out and getting multiple red cards a game. No red cards at all for Arsenal. Just occasional dark cards. Like, when that stuff happens, how are we supposed to feel about it? And look, again, I think the U.S. women's national team needs to be tested with those things. Absolutely needs to be tested with those things. And I think Emma Hayes is interested in seeing her team tested in that way. Right? Get them an opportunity. And maybe a couple young players in this group for Emma Hayes did rise to the occasion, or at least were not backed down by Brazil's attempts to go after these players, these Americans, to shake them that way, right? Lily Johannes is still 18. She's 18 years old, and while she has immense potential, right, she's still coming along as a very young player. In that game, handful of 22 and 23-year-olds on the field to start the match, players with limited international experience. And so many U.S. women's national team games are played on American soil, and you wonder if you're ever going to get a real test if you're doing that. So to go to Brazil and to do this, Luis is saying that the referee was too lenient at the beginning of the game, gave Brazil a green light to continue with the shenanigans. Yeah, that is a problem, right? There was another red card. Absolutely. John is saying that it was a red card that was a legit elbow, that 100% was a deserved red card with a second yellow, technically speaking. All right, we're going to move on to our World Cup previews. We have drafted groups. The Ultras have stepped up. John Hunt has taken over Group E. We're not doing these in order. We're doing them however they come, and John has done the work. So we're going to talk Group E when we come back with John Hunt in just a couple of minutes. Remember to like, subscribe, become a member on YouTube. If you've got a new membership because of the gifts today, we'll throw up the Discord link so you can join in the chat and be part of the community over there. I think we're adding new members every day. I'm not sure what the number is right now, but well over 200 at this point in the community with the Discord. You can follow us on social media. Make sure you do that. Instagram and Blue Sky are the best places to do that. I encourage everybody to go and look at the channel and watch the videos that we post up. Not all of those things are going to have been on the live show. Some of them will be things that we do outside the live show. We're working with the Midwest Premier League. We want to support high-level amateur and semi-pro soccer in America. Midwest Premier League is a league that is growing and has become an alternative to some of those national leagues. And we're working with them on their players of the month and their power rankings. So there's a new video up. Go just give that a like and watch it for us to support us and to support the Midwest Premier League. Okay? There we go. Okay. Yeah, John says we're at 179 in Discord. Got to get to 200. Okay. All right. I've delayed us long enough. John's been waiting patiently. So when we come back, it is time for our first World Cup preview here on Morning Kickaround. There he is, John Hunt. As you see, he's in the chat this morning. He's now with us here on Morning Kickaround to talk about the World Cup. John, how are you, man?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
Doing well. Okay, first of all, give us a little background on John. Right? I know that lots of the Discord people will know. The Ultras will know you a little bit, but, tell us where you're from and what your soccer interests are.
So I am from the Lexington area, Lexington, Kentucky, being that. The president of the Railbirds, which is the supporters group for both of Lexington sporting clubs, men and women's teams. And then I'm also I'm a middle school social studies teacher who also is the assistant coach for both the middle school and high school boys programs.
Oh, that's great. All right. So you're out there coaching and also serving as a major support leader in the Lexington soccer community. That is awesome. We appreciate it. So we did a World Cup draft. I don't remember, John, where you were in the draft. Did you get the groups you wanted? I know you ended up with 2, right?
Yes, I did, and I did get the groups I wanted. I wanted the groups with some of the not as big names and more of the interesting stories.
So you went with Group E to start, and we'll get to do Group E this morning, and we'll come bring you back for Group F, which I know is still a
Okay.
work in progress. So here you go. Here is your Group E presentation from our guy John. As you can see, Curacao, Ecuador, Germany, and Cote d'Ivoire. Okay, so you said you wanted to get a group with some lesser, known teams. Maybe I imagined Curacao's on that list. Germany certainly not. Uh, as we get in here, was it Curacao you were most interested in? Was it Cote d'Ivoire? Who were you most interested in learning about?
I really liked learning about Curacao. There's like nothing out there for them, to be fair.
Nothing. Nothing on the team, nothing on the country.
It's really hard. Well, the team has been well documented.
Right. Yeah.
But like their domestic league and the stuff beyond the national team is not as well documented.
Yeah, that absolutely. That would be, I imagine that would be tough because it's a tiny. What's the population of
It's
Curacao?
under 200K.
Under 200,000. Now, and I'm sure this is part of your research here. This is also a country that benefits from the diaspora, right? Or benefits from connections. I guess it's the other way around. It's sort of like the Dutch colonized Curacao, and then people from Curacao were like, "Well, I'm going to go back to the Netherlands," and then people grew up there who had Curacao. I don't know. I feel like I'm about to do I feel about to do a Wayne Gretzky and pronounce it really bad, John.
I couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell me. That's fine. I know it. I know. I'm putting you on the spot. All right. So, give us some factoids here on Curacao.
So Curacao, they're known as the Blue Wave, is their name. They are still part of the Netherlands. They are officially part of the Netherlands. They're not an independent country. They're one of those countries in FIFA where they are not a UN member, but they are a recognized self nation. They do really good, I would say, for how small they are as a country. They are very good. They've won the Caribbean Cup. They won the ABCs tournament, which is them, Bermuda, and Aruba. That was a very interesting tournament I learned about. They placed third in the CONCACAF championship in the 60s, and that was back when winning that guaranteed you a spot in the World Cup. So they do pretty good for their nation. Their best player ever is Ingrio Hata, or El Pantra Negra, known as the Black Panther.
Okay.
He was very interesting. He never left the country. He wanted to remain amateur, even with Ajax and Real Madrid interested in him in like the 50s and 60s.
Okay. So obviously like a little bit of like pre-modern soccer history there. But that's still incredible. I mean, you think about some of the names that were playing at Real Madrid back in those days, and how they were established already as a major power. That's incredible. Now, you said his name was El Pantera Negra, which, okay, so language, right? It's a Dutch colony. Is the island mostly Dutch speaking, or is there a patois? Do we know any of that stuff, John?
It's kind of a mix. They have their own language. I think he got this nickname because he was playing against the more Spanish-speaking European countries. But they mainly speak Dutch, and then they have their own language of Curaçaoian.
Okay, all right. I think it's probably La. I mean, this is not me correcting you. It's probably La Pantera Negra, because even if he's a guy, he's still a Pantera, still a feminine word. I think that's what it is. Anyway, that's interesting.
That's what Wikipedia said.
Yeah, okay, Wikipedia. Maybe they got it wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. A mother's name was Hatot or Hato, but the civil registry couldn't place the name, so they went with Hato without a T. Okay. Interesting guy. Cuco Martina, who is that?
He is their captain. He is their current captain. He's the best player of their modern era. Been playing with them since about 2010. That type of thing. that's really it for their legends. I saw some in my research, some connection of Giat from like 1980s Netherlands. There's rumors that his mother was Curaçaoan, and so he might have connections, but that's never been confirmed. But those are their legends outside of
Okay.
like current players.
All right. So again, they made the World Cup as the smallest nation by population in their area to ever qualify, which is an achievement. Now it's an expanded World Cup. I mean, you can ding them for that if you want, but they were unbeaten in qualifying. So 7 wins, 3 draws. And you said we talked about the diaspora. This World Cup roster, only one player born in Curacao.
I don't think he was born in Curacao. I think he was born elsewhere, maybe in Suriname. I do not think they have any players directly born in Curacao.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's again, that speaks to the modern way of building a national team, right? And again, like absolutely, as a U.S. men's national team, we benefit from the same sort of thing. Not exactly, maybe always the same mechanism for it, but it is interesting that's the story, that these guys are almost always born somewhere else, but they are representing maybe the country of their roots.
And there's a lot of teams out there. There's only like 4 teams that don't have a diaspora player in the entire tournament.
Do you know those teams off the top of your head?
I think Colombia is one of them.
Colombia is one of the teams that does not have a player born outside of
one
Colombia.
Of them. There's a graphic floating around. I think that's in French or something that I've been using. And so I forget, but there's 289 total players at this tournament that are a diaspora pick for multiple different countries.
Wait, hold on. So now I know this is a little bit of a divergence, but Japan have a diaspora player?
Yes. Their goalkeeper was born in America.
That's right. I did know that. Yep. I did know that.
He's one everyone has brought up as an argument, or one of their goalkeepers, because our goalkeepers have gone from Tim Howard, Secretary of Defense, to we're not really comfortable with any of the 3.
Right. This is Zion Suzuki, who was born in New Jersey, and to a Ghanaian father and a Japanese mother. Okay. All right. So Pat the World Cup. Now, also it mentions here Dick Advocaat. There's a story with Dick Advocaat, right?
Yes. So he will be the oldest manager in World Cup history when the World Cup kicks off. He'll be 78. Weirdly, he had to step away from the national team for about 3 months to handle some family issues. And I forget the guy they kind of put in for a little bit, but he was still kind of in connection. And then that dude stepped away because it seemed like there was a lot of pressure to put Advocaat back, and they didn't like his replacement. So he is back. He was a big part of this whole thing of recruiting diaspora players and that type of stuff. I believe one of them, I might be remembering a Capo Verde player. But some of this recruitment for some of these diaspora players has gone from even on like LinkedIn.
Wow.
And stuff. Okay. Just like trying to find these guys and bring them in and play. And now with this path to the World Cup, they're a team that's happy to be here.
Yeah, of course.
Truly. Qualifying was their World Cup. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope they score a goal. They do something that they can, mark as a major step in their history as a footballing nation. Interesting, though. I mean, you got the fun facts here. Most Major League Baseball players per capita. Obviously, that's, largely because they have a small country and there are a handful of Major League Baseball players.
It's shocking, though. You have Ozzie Albies, you have Andrew Jones. They have like a number of like notable names. It's not just like a bench player that kind of goes in there. Like if you were born in Curacao, you have a high chance of playing Major League Baseball.
I recall like the Curacao Little League team making the World Series a couple times out of the Caribbean, which would be something remarkable. You consider how big baseball is in some of those nations. But interesting if they can have room for multiple sports and competing at the highest level in multiple sports. Yes, with the diaspora connection, but it's not as though soccer doesn't matter in Curacao. So, all right, let's move on, John, because there are 3 other teams in this group. This is a very big one for me because I'm very high on their chances in this tournament. This is Ecuador. I do think it's interesting to note that they are called La 3, like Mexico is L3 and Ecuador is La 3, which my sense is, and I think I've read this before, L3 would be a reference to the the colors. I don't know, like the team, El Equipo. Right? Equipo is an L for L3, and La 3 would be a reference to the flag because La Bandera is also a 3-color flag in Ecuador. So anyway, continue with Ecuador.
Yeah, so they're La Tri or Los Selecciones with the selection. You'll see that a lot from South American
Selección.
teams. They're either their colors or they're the selection. But they're I would say they're the dark horse to win this group, and they're a dark horse to go really high in it. This group, their domestic league does rank higher than the Netherlands right now, than the Eredivisie, just above it.
Interesting.
They have a lot of great players. Moises Caicedo, William Pancho, Piero Hincapié. This team can do can do really far. Now the draw is going to be weird, especially with these top 3 or top 8 third place teams. So the bracket's going to look super weird once everything's set in stone. But I think they could make the semis if possible. I think quarterfinal round of 16 is where they're going to be.
Yeah.
They only have 3 non-Ecuadorian players, but they have a lot of, great, and their league is coming up. Their league is, I think, the second or third best league in South America.
Yeah, I think we have a typo there, but Eder Valencia is the guy that just hangs around. Everyone knows Eder Valencia, and he's still going to be part of this team. Moises Caicedo from Chelsea, obviously. William Pacho, who just won the Champions League again with PSG, and as you mentioned, Hincapié. All right, so down to I like the fun facts. Give me some fun facts on Ecuador, John.
So the the Chimborazo, this is very interesting because there's technically 3 ways to measure the tallest mountain in the world. Because Mount Everest is the tallest from sea level.
Okay.
But if you're measuring from the middle point of our Earth, Mount Chimborazo is the closest to space because the Earth bulges at the center. And Ecuador is called Ecuador because the equator goes like smack dab through the middle of the country. So it's right at that bulge of the Earth.
Yeah, and it says there that they have the Galapagos Islands, and Luke is saying Ecuador ranks number 1 in this tournament in turtles. Now, is that quantity of turtles, Luke, or quality of turtles? Because I think, there might be some other countries that have lots of turtles, but you're suggesting that the Galapagos turtle species are preferable. That's what we're saying. Everybody knows the Galapagos Islands. That's very, very cool. Named after the equator. Just to kind of throw something in here, I have a friend who has dabbled in soccer, is not necessarily the biggest soccer guy on the planet, Clinton Yates. He works for ESPN, does a radio show in LA these days. And I recall a couple years ago, maybe even during the last World Cup, there being a discussion about Ecuador's history and the number of black players that Ecuador has, because it's not the majority of the population are not African American, or I'm sorry, African South American, African Ecuadorian, but they have a much larger proportion of their national team represented by black players because of the Esmeraldas province, like a specific province where African people of African descent settled in Ecuador, and that they are soccer mad and they produce players. They're like Curacao with baseball players, or the Dominican Republic with shortstops. Like that's the kind of level of the soccer in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you get the Afro-Ecuadorian population. Obviously, there's some deeper, darker history there. Go learn about it if you want. You get the domestic league a little bit. You mentioned that they rank higher than the Eredivisie in the Netherlands. The biggest club, or the most successful club, you say Liga Deportiva Universitaria. Anybody else? Is that LDU? That's Quito, right? That's the team in Quito?
Yeah, LDU. They're the most successful on the continent. They've won the Copa Libertadores. They've won the Sudamerica, which is like their Europa League. They were Club World Cup runner-up in their history, and this is all in about the late 2000s, like 2005, 2010. This is also Ecuador is famous for I think it's SC Barcelona, the club that you'll see float around as the ripoff of Barcelona. They're also a very successful club, and they kind of have a big four with their thing. So it's Barcelona SC. Sorry, they're the
Okay.
most successful
Yeah.
domestic one.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So that's Ecuador. And again, oh, you got kit ratings. I forgot about that for Curacao. Can I go back real quick? I want to look at the Curacao kit ratings. 7 out of 10 for home, and the away is 10 out of 10. I got to go look at Ecuador's kits or Curacao's kits now.
Curacao's home leaves a lot to be thing, and I think that's a lot with national team kits. The home kit is consistent and it's kind of normal. Like everyone loves Brazil's kit, but it's kind of boring when you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's iconic because of the color scheme and nothing else, right? They don't really mess around. But that's the thing, like people don't really want people to mess with the Nike to mess with the Brazil kit, but the Curacao is and again, there are some FIFA rules around the kits and what they can look like and things like that. So go check out the kits John has rated there. All right, so Ecuador gets 7.5 out of 10, 5 out of 10 for the away, and white 9 out of 10. There's a third kit for Ecuador.
Yeah, so I looked at footy headlines for all these. They kind of have them down by groups and stuff, and they listed 3. They had a white kit, fully white kit. Their yellow kit I really like thing, but it's very close to Brazil kind of style, just in that kind of Ecuadorian yellow. Their away is just like a dark navy, and it's kind of just doesn't do anything for me. But this white kit's very clean. I've also seen recently they're made by Marathon.
Okay.
And Marathon apparently has released, I don't know where you can find them, but it's $30 fan kits for people.
All right. That's I've heard that's a thing in a couple places, so that's good. All right, let's go. Let's move forward. Germany is number 3 in this group for our report from John. You have now the national team nickname people know is the Mannschaft, but my understanding is that it's never been official, and that they kind of stopped using it. So I don't know what we call Germany anymore, except for Germany.
Theirs is not very fun. Some of the other nicknames you'll see are like the DFB team, which is just the German Federation team.
Right. So not very creative over there. Not very creative over there.
Well, that's the whole thing, isn't the whole joke that like the Brazilians will do all this amazing stuff, and at the end of 90 minutes, Germany's going to be the one who wins.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and what's the joke? Like, the World Cup is an exercise in 100 and whatever games now, and at the end, Germany wins in penalties or something like that. 4-time world champions. 3 is West Germany, obviously one since reunification. They're a kind of little bit of a dark horse in this tournament, I think, John. People aren't really respecting them as much as they used to, but I do think they're pretty decent. I mean, I don't know that they wowed us against the U.S. in that friendly, but I wouldn't look past the Germans.
They're a very interesting case. There is a member of the Railbirds who was born in Germany and stuff, so he's very close and is involved in that as a member of Bayern Munich. So he's like, there's a whole mix of stuff because it's a bit of the old guard with like Neuer and Kimmich. I butchered his name. Still kind of hanging around in this new guard with Ritz and Musala kind of coming in. So that's kind of this like who's gonna do it and that type of thing. And then there's all the controversy around their manager who was sacked at Bayern Munich because there was relationship issues, and basically half this team is Bayern Munich. So there's this whole kind of like, it's not, from at least my conversations with him, it's not the on the field product that might cost Germany. It's what might happen behind the scenes of them not gelling and going together well.
Right. Well, the Manuel Neuer situation is a part of that story, right? That he was retired internationally, and there was a sense that the German national team had moved on from Manuel Neuer. Obviously, injuries have been part of his recent history. And then he's like, actually, no, I'd like to play again. I'd like to go to the World Cup. And that means that Oliver Baumann, the Hoffenheim goalkeeper, who thought he had leveled up to number 1, may be demoted to number 2 behind Neuer, and if that becomes an issue. Look, Musiala is an
I've
incredible
heard
player.
that could,
Good.
yeah, I've heard that whole goalkeeper situation has kind of messed with some of the younger players because they want the Hoffenheim keeper in because he's going to be the one they're probably going to play with more, like
Yes.
Musiala,
Right.
like Ritz, and all these type of stuff, and not the 40-year-old newer.
Yeah, Musiala is incredible. Florian Wirtz is incredible. Pavlovic, you saw him against the U.S. out of the midfield for Bayern Munich. Obviously, they also lost talented young player Leonard Carl to an injury just before that game, which means he'll miss the World Cup. Joshua Kimmich is an interesting one. He's the old guard, like you said. He doesn't play. He is a defensive midfielder here on the report, but he's probably going to play a lot of right back for Germany in this tournament.
Yeah,
He kind of becomes a Swiss Army knife, even though he's German. So can they win it? Sure. Will they win it? I doubt it.
Germany, the thing is, German's floor is probably the round of 16 quarterfinals.
I think that's probably right. That's probably
but that's them falling out in the round of 16 is a failure. Like I said, they have reached the semifinals. Yeah. They played in 21 out of 22 tournaments because they were banned from 1950 because obvious reasons people weren't happy with them in 1950. But they've made the semifinal in 12 out of 21 tournaments. Like the semifinal is their standard. And I don't think they'll reach that just based on other teams. So are they going to probably underperform by the German standard? Yes. By most of the world standards, that's not underperforming. That's being in the top 8 teams.
All right, so Germany. A couple of fun facts about Germany. Anything we don't know about Germany already?
If you don't know, Christmas tree started in Germany. It was Queen Victoria's husband who brought him to England because he was German, and a picture that they took of them celebrating that festival went viral. American people also took that picture, kind of changed it to American audience, and that's how we got Christmas trees. They were the first country to adopt daylight savings time. And then the Neuschwanstein Castle is the one that inspired the Disney Castle.
Okay, so there you go. German castles. Everybody loves a castle.
Let's go. There are a lot of castles in Germany.
A lot of castles. In fact, I think is it Casey Keller that famously lived in a castle in Germany for a little bit? Go look that up. He tells that story sometimes. Côte d'Ivoire, les éléphants. I'm going to just do my French because I love doing my French accent. 3-time.
So you go right ahead.
All right. 3-time. I took 3 years of French. The accent's about the only thing I got left. And a little bit of accent. 3-time African Cup of Nations champions. 4th World Cup appearance. Obviously, you look at the legends. They've had a few: Drogba, Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure. Those brothers, both obviously great players in the Premier League for a long time. They made the World Cup via an unbeaten run through CAF qualifying. Interesting that they have 8 French-born players. I mean, that makes sense clearly, but the fact that it's that big of an influence on the Côte d'Ivoire national team, I think, is fascinating. I will note that Jan Diomande played some soccer in America before he made his moves and got over to Europe, and now is being eyed as a 100 million pound player or whatever he is. So there is that. What else can you tell us about Côte d'Ivoire?
Côte d'Ivoire is a very interesting country in terms of what they did. Like when they won AFCON most recently, they had actually fired their manager right after the group stage and went on that insane run where I believe it's the 2023 tournament where they defeat Mo Salah's Egypt in penalties. That's the famous final where Salah gets the laser pointer in his eyes. But they're a very interesting nation. I feel like they often underperform to their level at the world stage. They've never made it out of the group. They might not make it out of the group in this case. I think they will be one of the best 8 third place teams if they were to get into third place, just because of Curacao in here. I would hate to it, but I feel like Curacao is just going to be kind of the punching bag of this group that's going to
unfortunately
help teams. But they're a very interesting case. Their league is not very good in terms of a global sense, 107th in the world. They don't really do great on the continental stage. They do have a team that's won CAF that I believe that was in the 80s, so it's kind of been a while since they've done that. They're just a very interesting team because they have a lot of potential. They do. They have, like, if you look at the players to watch, Jan Domene, Amand Diallo, who plays for Manchester United, and their captain plays at Al Ahly with a bunch of other, that's one of those big four Saudi Arabian clubs. But what are they going to do at the world stage? Because like I said, they've never made it out of the group. So this could be, with this expanded thing, their way out.
Right. Yeah. Whether or not they're good enough to do anything after that, definitely an open question. Diamande is a talented player. I like Diallo. Yeah, incredible lightning on the wing. We'll see what he can do. I think
their thing is going to be their wingers. Their speed on the wing is how they're going to do it. But they're the coin flip.
So, in terms of fun facts, it says chocolate capital of the world just because there's the most cocoa grown in Cote d'Ivoire. Is that right?
Yes. So, funny enough, for those who don't know, cacao is native to the Americas originally from Mexico and stuff. But once the Spanish came in and the Portuguese kind of associated, it's actually Western Africa that is now kind of eclipsed Mexico and Central America in the making of their chocolate. A lot of Swiss get their chocolate from the Cote d'Ivoire now.
Okay.
And they're also home to the largest church in the world, Basilica of Our Lady of Peace. And this is bigger than St. Peter's Basilica.
Okay. How do you measure that exactly? Like this, it's the inside of the building is the biggest?
I think it's the size of it. Because if you actually look at St. Peter's Basilica, it's not that big. It is a huge one, but when it's like the Vatican attached to it doesn't count.
Right. So I'm a little confused. All right. It says it's the world's largest church. All right. I'll have to go look into that. I've been in a few cathedrals and basilicas in my time, so you never know. All right, that's the report on Group E from our guy John. If you have drafted a group, you can be like John and come on the show and present your group, or if you want us to do it for you, we absolutely can do that. John, thank you very much for jumping on today and presenting your group. That was great information.
No problem. I had a good time. I hope some people learned some things.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Thank you very much to John for coming on and jumping in and doing that. Especially helps because obviously Rob's not here today, unavailable. So we got some information on Group E at the World Cup. Yeah, there's going to be some teams we don't know a lot about. And I that's the part I'm most interested in, is to learn a little bit. I mean, it's obviously like their soccer culture. The best we can do, and we can maybe dig into some video and things like that at some point as this tournament goes on, but there's also the other wider stuff, some of the things that I don't know about these places that the World Cup can help us learn. I'm one of those guys that would read the CIA fact book. If you're old enough to have played Carmen Sandiego, you probably understand what I'm talking about. Like, it was a lot of that. Like, I'm going to look up the chief crop of whatever country I think Carmen Sandiego might, I get a clue. What's the chief crop of this country? That kind of stuff. So if you're a Carmen Sandiego person, like me, then that's always very fun. All right, we're going to wrap up this edition of Morning Kickaround. That was good stuff. We did a little soccer under construction. We talked about the U.S. women's national team in a bar fight down in Brazil. We have John with his Group E report. More of those to come. And as the tournament plays out, we'll obviously do some talk about the actual performances of these teams, maybe some of the players we learn about as things get underway. Tomorrow, World Cup kicks off tomorrow in Mexico with Mexico and South Africa. I'm excited for that. Very interesting group that they've got down there in Mexico in Group A. South Korea and Czechia is our nightcap, which means going to be up till midnight. I'm actually on the air for the radio tomorrow in the evening, so I will be doing Sirius XM FC radio if you want to partake in that. I put this up on my newsletter, and if you're not a subscriber to my newsletter, do your friend Jason a solid and become a subscriber to the newsletter. Look for Jason Davis Soccer Eagle in Google and you'll find it. It's on a Ghost newsletter site. If you sign up, it lands in your inbox and bang, it's right there. This week, so far this week, because I intend to write a little bit on the World Cup as much as I can every day of the World Cup. In this edition, there's some of my plans for the World Cup coverage. I've got all that radio work I'm doing. I got a best soccer show that's going down tonight. That's going to happen as much as I can make it happen throughout the tournament. So if you're a fan of the best soccer show or want some U.S. men's national team focused content, then that's where you go for that tonight on the YouTube channel for the best soccer show. Come join me for that, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then I will also be doing this show as much as I can with Rob Kerr. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when we're both available. When we're not both available, maybe we're going solo. So a reminder, become an ultra, subscribe to the channel, hit like on this video, support American soccer. I mean, you're supporting us talking about American soccer, but support American soccer by liking and subscribing and becoming a member on this channel and show everybody out there who might want to support us and sponsor through us and give us their money to promote their products, that we've got the audience here, that American soccer fans are out there, that they're very passionate and that they want to see this sport grow in America. We're dotting the map out here. You can find us on email at morningkickaround@gmail.com. If you have, I don't know, any ideas for the show, if you know anybody who might want to buy some ads on the show, that kind of thing, hit us up, morningkickaround@gmail.com. We're a podcast. You can go find us on your podcast platform of choice. That's a good way to get the show if you don't have time to watch the YouTube or you can't be here in the morning. We also have Instagram, Blue Sky, some other social media. And as I said at the top of the show, merch is out there. You got to go search for it a little bit because it's not tied to our YouTube channel at the moment. But if you go to the Fourth Wall website, morning-kickaround-shop, you'll find us. You can find the jersey, the Morning Kickaround first ever Bastion produced kit. I mean, this is quality, people. I know some people out there have them already. I know some people are waiting on them. The second run is in production. And as soon as I get my hands on them, I will be shipping those out to people. I know I owe one to Tom in St. Louis. I owe one to a bunch of people out there. So if you've already bought one, it is on its way. But there's also hoodies and hoodless sweatshirts, Dot the Map, Clang the Clanger, all those things. Go and check those out, and you can support the show and fly the flag and do all that stuff. So again, thank you very much to John Hunt. Thank you very much to everybody who participated in today's show. Like, subscribe, do all those things. Help build this show out. Review the show somewhere. Tell everybody that you like Morning Kick Around. And until next time,